Hello everyone. Today in Gyan Darshan, we'll be deliberating on the role and responsibility of the Committee of Creditors and judicial pronouncement relating to the Committee of Creditors. The topic is very relevant because IBC is the most important landmark legislative reform which has come into the financial sector, which has really created a discipline among all the stakeholders. This has helped in creating a discipline among the corporate borrowers, within the bankers, a system which will not only ensure the continuation of a corporate entity, but will also provide a better value to all the stakeholders in case the stress is observed. To discuss this, we have our important presentation. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, this envisages market-led solution in the insolvency space driven by professionals and Committee of Creditors. To realize the objectives of this imperative, that all the stakeholders driving the process shall be regulated and follow the rules of the game threadbare. The code puts in place the creditors in control process for insolvency resolution of corporate persons. Under the code, creditors pursue resolution, evaluates the best resolution plan, and circumvents liquidation to the extent possible. Creditors of a corporate debtor act collectively to form a committee which act as the best interest of all the stakeholders. CoC is the custodian of public trust during the resolution process. The CoC acts in its statutory role and thus discharging a public function. The pain and gains emanating from the resolution of a corporate debtor are to be shared by stakeholders with fairness and equity. CoC to apply the highest standards in functioning, duty of care, follow the due process, be fair to all the stakeholders, and also act in a transparent manner in discharge of its responsibilities. The IP, who conducts the process, also performs its duties under the guidance and supervision of the Committee of Creditors, which we are shortly calling CoC. The role of CoC is vital for timely completion of the activities and successful resolution. And you are pretty well aware that successful resolution of a stress in a corporate entity is in the larger interest of all the stakeholders. If an entity is kept as an ongoing concern, not only the financial creditor are able to maximize their value, but the other stakeholders like government is able to generate revenues in form of taxation. The employees are able to continue their employment and get their employment benefits. The suppliers get their dues and the market gets the delivery of the products. So keeping a concern as a going concern in the larger interest of the entire ecosystem. CoC can decide to seek best resolution plan from the market. The resolution plan can entail a change of management, technology, product portfolio, combination of all the acquisition, disposal of assets, businesses or undertakings, restructuring of the organization, change in business model, ownership or a balance sheet, a strategy to turn around. There can be buyout, there can be mergers, amalgamation and acquisition or takeover, so on and so forth, whatsoever may be necessary to resolve the stress of a firm. The value maximization with sustained resolution requires the strategic and much beyond the restructuring of liabilities roadmap. The requisite time frame and the commercial dexterity of the equipment on the part of the members of the CoC is very vital for this. The basic objectives of this code of conduct are to elevate accountability and responsibility of the Committee of Creditors, to ensure transparent functioning of the Committee of Creditors. Ensure decisions are made in fair, just and transparent manner. Prevent actions which are determining the objectives of the IBC. Ensure that CoC is catering to the interest of all the stakeholders. Strengthen collective action and raise accountability. Prevent the members from colluding and with the insolvency professional. There have been judicial pronouncements which have established the supremacy of CoC in finalizing a resolution plan for a corporate debtor. A very illustrious case is Shushriban case. In this case, the Supreme Court has defined that commercial wisdom of CoC is supreme for deciding about the best resolution plan. The commercial decisions of CoC are basically based on the collective wisdom of the Committee of Creditors. This has also been established in the Supreme Court judgment pronounced in the case of Hisar Steel India versus Satish Kumar Gupta. The Honorable Supreme Court in CoC of Hisar Steel India versus Satish Kumar Gupta has observed that CSV has to take a business decision based on a ground reality by majority, which then binds to all the stakeholders, including descending creditors. The CoC envisages an exalted status as the CoC is commercial decision making, and even the adjudicating authority has limited role in approving the resolution plan approved by CoC. This simply implies that the Committee of Creditors, who are basically lending institutions and the financial creditors, they are best placed commercially to take the right decision for a corporate entity, because this will not only prevent that company from going to the resolution to the liquidation, but will also provide the maximized value to all the stakeholders, including the financial creditors. So once they are planning a resolution plan which is in the larger interest of the ecosystem, then Committee of Creditor should get the supremacy in taking the decisions. Supreme Court in another case, that is Shashidhar versus Indian Overseas Bank, also has announced that court grants paramount status to the commercial wisdom of the CoC without any judicial intervention for ensuring completion of the process within the time limit. The case, the Supreme Court, the Committee of Creditors of Israel Limited versus Satish Kumar Gupta. So in this case, the limited judicial review available with the Education Authority can be exercised only when the CoC has abdicated its responsibility of considering the important parameters such as maximization of the asset value, that of the corporate debtor needs to be kept as a going concern, or the balancing the interest of all the stakeholders. I hope you are pretty well aware that the balancing the interest of stakeholders, the Supreme Court has also come out with a plan where they give them directions to the Committee of Creditors that you have to take the interest of all the stakeholders in mind, and this was deliberated into the various cases, and this was decided that to keep a concern going concern, it's not only the financial creditors whose interest is to be taken care of, the other stakeholders must be kept in mind while deciding about the best resolution plan to keep that corporate entity as a going concern. In another case, New Metal Limited versus Satish Kumar Gupta, RP and others, the CoC is a creature of statute and instrumentality of the state. So the Supreme Court observed that this is not just a committee, this is basically a creature of the statute and instrumental of the state. And what is the role of a state? The basic role of a state is to welfare of the people. So the Committee of Creditor need to take care of welfare of all the stakeholders who are part of the resolution plan, including the employees, including the suppliers, including the customers of that concern, and the government, which of course receives the revenue in the form of taxation if the concern is kept as a going concern. CoC as a body is a new institution and continues its journey in bettering, evolving in its role in the context of value maximization and balancing of the interest of all the stakeholders. Keeping all these objectives in mind, the IBBI, in consultation with the bankers, thought that why don't we create a self-imposed discipline on the Committee of Creditors, so that the Committee of Creditors act in a matter which is fair to all, where the interest of all the stakeholders is properly balanced, and the prime objectivity of value maximization and continuity of corporate entity is ensured. So keeping all these objectivities in mind, we at IBA level had deliberated with the various banks, with the IBBI, and came out with a draft code of conduct, and which was accepted by the IBBI. So I'll just outline few of the important aspects of the code of conduct. So a member of the committee of the creditor, while discharging its duties, shall abide by the following code of conduct as individuals and jointly with other members of the committee. The committee members shall maintain integrity in performing its role and functions under the court, must not misrepresent any fact or situation, and should refrain from being involved in any action that is detrimental to the objectives of the court, must maintain objectivity in exercising decisions on the subject matter bestowed to the committee under the court. Committee of Creditors must disclose the details of any conflict of interest to stakeholders whenever it comes across such conflict of interest during the process. The committee members should not acquire directly or indirectly any of the assets of the debtor, nor knowingly permit any relative of the committee member to do so without making a disclosure to the stakeholders. The members should not adopt any illegal or improper means to achieve any objectivity. The members must cooperate with the insolvency professional in discharging his or her duties in the court. The committee members should not influence the decision or the work of the committee so as to make undue gain or advantage to itself or its related parties. Disclose the existence of any pecuniary or personal relationship with any stakeholder entitled to distribution as soon as it becomes aware of it. The members should ensure that decisions are made without any bias, favor, fear, coercion, undue influence, or conflict of interest, and maintain transparency in all activities and decisions making. The committee members respect the mechanism, they should respect the moratorium, and the creditor who maintain the accounts of the corporate debtor shall not adjust the receipt of the corporate debtor during the CIAP or past dues in violation of the moratorium. Members, when they become fully aware of the provisions of the code and rules and regulation, it must have complete knowledge of the role and responsibilities assigned to it by the court. They nominate representatives with sufficient authorization to participate in the meetings and make decisions during the process, because it was observed that some of the cases, the people who were representing in the committee of creditors were neither having adequate knowledge of the subject or were not fully empowered, so the decision process were not getting in time, they were getting delayed. So one of the code what we have decided about the lenders is that they should be having adequate authorization while participating in the committee of creditors with adequate knowledge of the subject on which decision is to be taken. The members should participate actively, constructively, effectively in deliberations and decision making. Members should not conceal any material information or knowingly make a misleading statement to the board, the adjudicating authority, or any stakeholder as applicable. They should ensure that timelines provided in the code and regulations are not breached. facilitate the appointment of various professionals within the timeline prescribed under the code and the regulations. Cooperate with the insolvency professionals in seeking various approvals from the adjudicating authority within the model timeline prescribed under the code of regulations. The committee should ensure complete confidentiality of information that may receive or come across as part of the process at all times. It shall not share any information with any person who is not authorized to receive such information and without the consent of the relevant party as required by the law. At all times, respect the privacy of any information. The committee members are expected to take necessary measures to ensure that the insolvency resolution process cost is reasonable, keeping in balance the need to conduct a smooth and timely resolution process. The code also desires that members should ensure that their cost associated with the process is not booked as insolvency resolution process cost. Not withholding release of insolvency resolution process cost, including fee of professional. So they have to be paid in time, it should not be withheld. Adhere to the code and regulations in performing their role and functions under the code at all times. The members are supposed to bear the collective interest of all the stakeholders in mind in all activities and the decision making. Respect the demarcation of role and responsibilities assigned by the code to different stakeholders and shall not either directly or indirectly interfere with the functions of the insolvency professional. The committee of creditors is also expected at all times to endeavor to ensure that timelines prescribed in the code and regulations are adhered to. The members should not contravene any provisions of the code, regulations, instructions, guidelines, circulars issued by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board from time to time. Endeavor to protect the corporate debtors as a running business and its assets and take necessary steps to protect the value of the assets of the corporate debtor. The members of the Committee of Creditors are also expected to extend interim finance to the extent required for completion of the process, because sometimes a corporate entity under stress may require some additional funding to keep it as a going concern. So if the Committee of Creditors and their members do not come forward and support that interim finance, then it will be very difficult for the insolvency professional to keep it as a going concern during the CIRP process. These were some of the thoughts which I thought I must share with this audience group, because Committee of Creditors is now getting the greater responsibilities and is being viewed as a very important institution for resolution of the stress in a corporate debtor. A time has come when all the creditors, they have to upgrade their systems. They have to create resources who are well equipped with the knowledge of the IBC processes, who understand the time frame requirements, who understands the timely decision requirements, and are able to take proper decisions in the Committee of Creditors, which can definitely keep these corporate entities as a going concern. Let me share with you the broad perspective of a banker in the IBC process. After this IBC came into force in 2016, everybody was very circumvent what will happen to this code, whether this will take every running institutions into the liquidation, whether the Committee of Creditors will be able to perform its duty the way it is desired, because many of them were having apprehensions that when the consortium decisions take such a long time, how do this Committee of Creditors will be able to take time-bound decisions? But I must appreciate and compliment all the banking system, compliment all the stakeholders of the financial system who have evolved over the course of time, created this Committee of Creditor as an important and effective institution which could take very important decisions in a time-bound frame. Although many of the decisions were not completed in the prescribed time limit, but still the time frame in which all these decisions were taken were much shorter than had it been gone to any civil court process or the normal judicial processes. So this code has not only provided a great tool for the financial creditors, but has also provided a great opportunity for those who are interested in acquiring and those who are interested in investing into these stress assets, because it provides a collective platform where with the collective resolution process, the entire entity, instead of going to an individual banker or going to an individual bank, a person who is really interested in acquiring a company can directly present a plan as a resolution applicant to the committee of creditors. And if that plan is found feasible, then it can provide a business benefit to the resolution applicant. It can provide and take care of the interest of the other stakeholders of the corporate debtor. One thing I must admire is more than the process involved and more than the force of law, this IBC has really brought a drastic change into the behaviors of all the stakeholders. Now a corporate debtor, with the introduction of Section 29A, now they are afraid that in case the decisions are not taken in time, if the conduct of the account is not maintained and they default, they may have to lose their concern. And with that, this has brought a sense of discipline among the corporate debtors. With this brings the urgency and the need to bring discipline among the lenders also for taking the decisions in time. If the decisions are taken by the committee of creditors in time, not only during the resolution process, but even before that, this can help a lot of important entities to remain as a going concern. This can really facilitate the economic growth of the country and can provide the ease of doing business in our country, which is the need of the hour. Because this is a time where our country is witnessing a great credibility among all the countries in the world, not only on a moral value system, not only on our digital technology basis also, but on our legal reforms also, which are creating this reform. And I think IBC is one reform which has improved the India's international rating of ease of doing business in the international world. So with this understanding and with these aspirations of the entire world, I think the entire ecosystem and the financial creditors need to play a greater and a very important role, and the committee of creditors should really become an institution of public faith in which all the stakeholders, including the operational creditors, including the suppliers, including the employees, believe that the committee of creditors like judiciary will be able to discharge their responsibilities in time with objectivity and balancing the interests of all these stakeholders. I hope this series will facilitate evoking a lot of response from those who are a viewer, and will facilitate and create a thought process among the creators also, that how do we reach our performance in terms of taking proper decisions in the CoC to the next level. Thank you all for a patient listening today.